So I want to talk to y'all now about a show that I binge watched yesterday. Yesterday was the 4th, and I'm not usually the binge watching type. I'm usually the type of guy who just has always got to be doing something, being active, pursuing a project, and feeling like I'm getting somewhere. I don't like to be cooped up. I don't like to be. I don't like to just sit around, and I don't like to just. I find sloth to be just intolerable most of the time. But yesterday I decided to make an exception. It was a holiday. I didn't have anything to do. Everything was pretty much closed, so I couldn't go anywhere. I decided I was going to just, after working out in the morning, I decided I was going to try this sloth thing and do my best at being slothful. And I thought, well, you know what? There's this show that looks kind of intriguing that's on Amazon Prime, and it's titled The Terminal List, and it stars Chris Pratt. Now, Chris Pratt is an actor, a comedic, but also a comedic actor, but also an action star. He's done comedy work, and he's also been in, action movies. And he's very well liked by fans. He's got this kind of persona that is, that people tend to gravitate towards, the hoi polloi, that is. But amongst his fellow movie stars, he's sort of seen as an oddball or worse, because the rumor is that he's somewhat conservative and that he's somewhat religious, and that you're not really that's really not a thing you want to do in Hollywood. So there's always sort of this controversy that surrounds Chris Pratt in Hollywood, even though most people who watch him like him and don't care. They don't think I sure hope he agrees with me on abortion or this, that, or the other thing. They just I like to watch him act in things. He's enjoyable. He's funny. He's endearing. He's engaging. All those things. So I saw the ad for this TV show, and there are 8 episodes of it. And again, it's called the Terminal List. I don't want to spend too much time just going over all the nuts and bolts of the show, of what happens over the course of those 8 episodes of the show. I will say this is one of the more based things that you will see on a streaming service. And Amazon Prime is not known for based material, but I remember, was it last year they had Chris Pratt starring in some science fiction movie about like space invaders who are coming in the future, and so they have to go to the future to battle the aliens who are, I don't remember, was this some kind of convoluted, rather stupid but sort of entertaining movie, and I think that was around this same time period. That was just kind of a fun popcorn entertainment movie. This movie, however, The Terminal List, this is a really grim. Now, don't get me wrong, it's engaging, and it's even exhilarating at times, but it's a very grim storyline, involving betrayal and revenge. And what makes it most interesting is this is a movie in which which depicts the military-industrial complex. That very institution that President Eisenhower, when he was leaving office, warned the American people about. He said, we've got to keep our eye on the military-industrial complex and make sure they don't get too powerful, because they've already amassed an enormous amount of power. And it's a clear case of corruption. on high. And then Kennedy becomes president and then gets a hole in his head, thanks due to probably the military-industrial complex. What do you know? And then Vietnam starts up. So the military-industrial complex is not mentioned by name in the movie, but it's all about the shenanigans of this infamous institution. You have specifically, and again, without getting into the real, getting bogged down into the storyline too much, but Chris Pratt is a special ops soldier, and he and his men are off on a mission that looks like it's going well. It looks like it's based on actionable intel, as they say, Army language and such. Like, he's 7 clicks ahead, and Roger that. And 209er, as they say, Niner. I seem to remember that from Lee Majors. He would always call things Niner. Anyway, I guess maybe that's an Air Force thing. We're proceeding into Sector 209er. Anyway, so his men get ambushed, and all this stuff happens, and it's clear there was a betrayal that took place. And it soon becomes clear that this betrayal took place because he and his men had been the unwitting victims of an experiment gone awry that caused many of them to lose their minds and caused many of them to get sick. And so afterwards, after this catastrophe happens, and Chris Pratt's character, whose name is Reese, loses everything. I won't go into too much detail about it. Let's just say he gets put into the same kind of position that you see Mel Gibson in Braveheart. When he loses everything, and now he's got nothing to lose. He decides to take the law into his own hands. He makes a little list of all the people that he knows. He does some research and finds out the people who were involved in sabotaging his mission and who were responsible for taking everything he has away from him, basically, including his family. Anyway, and he goes out and just one by one takes these people out, and it's exhilarating. It's really fun to watch. It's grim entertainment, but it still has a very cathartic outcome, or has a cathartic effect on the viewer. And so it kept me watching. I was in my sloth mode, and I kept binging episode after episode after episode. And some of it's really kind of, it strains credulity. This guy's a pretty bad mofo, but the things he's able to do, the kind of things, the people that the manner in which he's able to escape, even though, he's ravaged by pain, and he's got 50 very skilled soldiers coming after him. He still, of course, manages to get away, and then tracks down the next guy, and then the next guy, and then the next guy. It's all very, again, very exhilarating to watch. But I think what makes it so interesting is, and some critics have, this is a show that's not popular with critics. You look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, the critics put it somewhere in the 35% area, where most of them give it negative reviews, and a lot of them have been making snide, snarky remarks about how this is a right-wing fantasy, and an alpha male cry for help, and all these kinds of, these kinds of reviews which suggest that they're essentially motivated by a hatred of the kind of culture that this movie is about, and that this kind of the kind of audience for this movie is all about. And so instead of looking at it in those terms and judging it by its own terms, these critics just turn haughty and they say, well, this is just for stupid, paranoid, alt-right, incel, old men, old white men. They pull out all the stops with this stuff. At least some of them have. But by contrast, the audience score is way up. And it's like I said, there are moments that strain credulity as far as the action goes, but there is a cerebral side to this show, and there are scenes that kind of recall what was it, The West Wing? I never watched that show very much, but just the sort of drama, the sort of back and forth drama of what's going on, among DC power players and things like that. And again, a lot of the movie centers around this military-industrial complex, which puts profits above the safety of the fighting forces, and which seeks to enrich the ruling class at the expense of what is decent and what is good, and at the expense of keeping the peace. So this is the kind of movie that 20 years ago leftists would like. Leftists would watch this movie and they would think this is it's kind of in the Rambo territory. I mean, Rambo First Blood, not so much the Rambo movies that followed, where he actually went to Vietnam, but the one where Rambo becomes this domestic terrorist, if you will, because of his ill treatment at the hands of American law enforcement. This sort of takes that Rambo mystique and elevates it and makes it bigger and makes it grander. So, this guy has decided he's got nothing to lose. He's lost everything. He's just going to be and he's been afflicted with this illness, which is probably going to kill him eventually, thanks to this chemical compound that he was exposed to. He and all of his men were exposed to without him knowing, and so he's just going to take everybody down who had anything to do with it, and he works his way up the chain, from one person to another person to another person. One moment that's really interesting, and kind of based, I gotta say, involves a character named Saul, who's this negotiator who's totally obnoxious, and his name is Saul, and he's just this egotistical, egomaniacal, narcissistic, out of control, wheeler dealer type of guy, and his name is Saul. Keep that in mind. So a little bit of what do we say? Dog whistling? Yeah, I think so. That's all I'll say about that. But I find it interesting that this show was made, and at all, by Amazon Prime, which we know does not. The makers of Amazon Prime do not share the values that this show is promoting. They're not in favor of the military men with integrity who serve with integrity to do what is best to keep the country safe, and they're not into conspiracy theorizing. of course, being a conspiracy theorist now makes you like a neo-Nazi, makes you an alt-right incel bad person or whatever. But 20 years ago, I'm telling you, lefty types would have been very sympathetic to the message promoted here, which is that the military industrial types, the high level members of the Pentagon and other other manifestations of the big military scene, the top admirals and so forth, that and weapons manufacturers, within the economy, who together, who together make for this unholy alliance of capitalism and selling weaponry and selling, dubious technology to the military, which just keeps getting more and more bloated. Even as the country goes further and further into debt. A while, not too long ago, this would be like around the time that Oliver Stone released JFK in the 90s. This would be a message that lefty types would be interested in hearing, and even in the aughts, even the Bush years, this would have been something they would have been sympathetic towards. But not now. Not in 2022. Now, if you believe conspiracy theories involving the military, you're a right-wing kook. And so we see this kind of reaction to the show. But what's interesting to me also is that this show, I think it's a good show. I think it's worth seeing. I recommend it. But I also find it interesting that it was made in the first place. Do they make these kind of movies just in order to provide a kind of safety valve? For like most of the time, or a lot of the time, the entertainment industry just thumbs its nose or looks down its nose. It looks down its pig nose. more dog whistling. Looks down on the red state America types. But a movie like this seems to be, or a TV show like this seems to be, right up their alley, and even made for their delectation and enjoyment. So what purpose is that serving? Why is that being done? One wonders. Is it meant to serve a kind of purpose, since we know that these entertainment industry producers and so forth, we know that they don't like us. We know that they're not down with the red state America types, but I guess every now and then they have to throw us a bone, and this is one of those bones. I don't know. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this interesting show, the Terminal List. If you have seen it, or if you have any thoughts about it, please let me know below. Thank you for watching.